spoilers for Stranger Things seasons 1 to 3. Stranger Things 3 came out on July 4th, and I watched it in one sitting on that day. On that day, I was pleasantly surprised by how great this season of Stranger Things was, as I was pretty much expecting nothing. And while in the first 2 episodes I basically got nothing, episodes 4 to 8 were everything. Mostly. Stranger Things was an amazing piece of television, and Stranger Things 2 was also a very enjoyable piece of television. And as much as I love the show and the characters, I felt like Season 2 ended perfectly and we didn't necessarily need any more of it. Hence the reason why I wasn't exactly all that hyped for Season 3. Yes, it's one of my favourite TV shows, but that doesn't mean I can't want it to end. And after Season 3, I really would like it to, as it was a spectacular finale. But there's at least one more season, so oh well. Anyway, Stranger Things 3 was a weird pick and mix pot. You had some of the best things in the series so far, and some of the worst things in the show so far. But nothing ever went as low as this unwanted stale bag of Haribos. So even though it was my favourite season for a brief moment, now my second favourite, what was it that made it a mixed bag? Now before we get into this, I'm not saying this season was bad, just that it had elements that were of low quality. I thoroughly enjoyed this season just like the other seasons. It still has its brilliant trademark cinematography, wonderful trademark score, and mostly great acting, but it really did go low and fly high. So let's see what made it like that. What I've been saying to everyone is, the first 2.5 episodes kind of suck, but after that, the show hit some serious all-time peaks. I've been saying that because the first 2 episodes really weren't all that great, and they kind of demotivated me to watch the rest. It was lucky that it got better halfway through episode 3. Why are the first 2 episodes pretty lackluster? Well, they take some of the characters that I have grown to love over the past years, and make me dislike them. They turn Hopper into a slightly annoying, while funny, stereotypical 80s dad, and make Max a bit of a shrew, who was such a sweetheart last season. They turn Will, who was a key plot point and insanely performed by Noah Schnapp in the past seasons, into someone who's just there, like a pack of licorice all sorts. Lucas is still just there as the token black character and for some reason puts up with Max's shit, although they make his sister Erica, who had maybe less than 10 minutes of screen time before this season, a main character with actual development in the show, which was great. I just find it weird how they still have Lucas on the sidelines but give his sister a big role. Also, this is kind of in general for the whole show, but the performances weren't as good as they have been. Not bad, just not as gut-wrenching, and I was introduced to that in the first 2 episodes. I'll speak more on that later. Now, although the first 2 episodes really weren't that great, they did have some good qualities, like the scene where Billy is taken by the Mind Flayer, and we see Billy, someone who was previously seen as unstoppable, at a vulnerable point, and the scene later on where we see him go to smash Karen's head, but he is able to resist that, conveying that Billy is genuinely a nice guy. I'll talk about that a bit more later. The first 2 episodes weren't really interesting, other than the Steve, Robin and Dustin stuff, which doesn't even begin till episode 2. And if I may, the Scoop Troop was most probably my favourite thing about this season. We keep cutting from that interesting story to the annoying boyfriend-girlfriend conflict, which other than Millie Bobby Brown and Sadie Sink when in the shopping montage, is acted quite poorly. Although I do like the fact that we see how vulnerable Eleven is because she is so impressionable, and I kind of feel sorry for her in that regard, but then I also feel happy for her because she is finally experiencing life as a normal teenager. I don't really know why I found it annoying. I think it's just because I felt like it was filler story. I think it was just there so it gives the kids some emotional drama in the last 2 episodes so they can talk about that instead of the monster. If you haven't got what I'm trying to say yet, I'm trying to say that the first 2 episodes were quite boring and not all there. Some of Hopper's lines of dialogue were funny, the Billy stuff was interesting, the Scoop Troop scenes were great, but they kept pushing that to the sidelines so we can see a poorly acted breakup scene. However, after these first 2.5 episodes, it really ramps up. For example, The episode starts with the continuation of the terrifying Mrs. Driscoll with cinematography that reinforces that this is unsettling and the incredible score that reiterates that even more. Then we see the Mind Flayer in flesh form do some alien type shit, which is horrifying, and it cuts to the brilliant title card sequence, which I am yet to skip. Then we have Joyce being weirdly dumb with a performance that feels quite numb by Winona Ryder. Keeping to the positives, you cut back to this amazing trio, and then this great scene with once again great cinematography. The shot is slanted to show how they are in an intense moment, and this is the moment where their lives become skewed and begins to deviate from normal everyday life. This okay scene where it's great to see the gang all back together, the incredible scene where Hopper barges into Klein's office with amazing acting which really accelerates the story, which is backed by the always wonderful score. Nancy and Jonathan break up, which although I like Nancy, I didn't really care about because I knew they would get back together or Jonathan would die and make Nancy feel sorry. Then it cuts back to the scoop troop where they are figuring out how to get into the room guarded by the Russians, as they now have the blueprints, which once again accelerates the story forward. Then you have Erica introduced as a main player in this well written and acted scene, more Hopper versus Klein with an amazing backing score, and finally Joyce is acting smart. A nice heartfelt scene between Nancy and Karen, more of Millie Bobby Brown's fantastic acting, but Finn Wolfhard's bad acting. Then we have the ultimate scoop troop getting into the best part of this season, or should I say, falling into the best part of this season. Then you have the amazing scene where Billy is trapped in the sauna, and Dacre Montgomery's performance in this scene is absolutely incredible. Once again, I will get into this more later on, but this is quite possibly the best scene in the whole season, adding so much character development to Billy and finally giving Sadie Sink a good scene to act in, which she does so excellently. The Mind Flayer comes out and the tension is rising so high. You have Billy who might hurt the kids, but of course Eleven, like the badass she is, annihilates Billy, but then Dacre Montgomery gives some incredible facial expressions just like Millie Bobby Brown and she gets beat down, but they once again give amazing facial expressions and Eleven sends him flying through the wall and this lovely score rises. While that was happening, you had the genuinely horrifying Mrs. Driscoll wailing, then you have We'll Meet Again playing over this also genuinely terrifying shot that contrasts the song and gets you so hyped. To surmise, episode 4 is arguably the best in this season as it accelerates the season forward with both funny and terrifying scenes without the change of tone ever feeling weird. It does this by constantly cutting back to multiple different stories, all of which are actually riveting by this point. The first 2.5 episodes were quite meh, with the latter half of episode 3 being really quite good, but then it gets to episode 4 where it really ramps up and never seems to go back down. This episode sets the standard for episodes to come. It's a perfect midpoint. The main group of kids find out about the Mind Flayer, Joyce and Hopper find out about the Russians, and the Scoop Troop find their way into the Russian lab under Starcore. It's a perfect episode of drama television. There may be some bad acting, but that's more to do with the series as a whole, because the writing is great. The acting is stupendous. However, it's not as good as it has been, especially Winona Ryder and Finn Wolfhard, especially Wolfhard. I don't know what happened to him this season, he just never really felt all that believable, and in the first couple of episodes Winona Ryder also fell off. You could see both of them acting at points, and I don't know why that is because in both seasons Ryder is absolutely incredible and Wolfhard, while never the best, was still really good. Also, there's a few characters in this season that have bad acting chops purely because their characters have nothing to do. Most notably are Will and Max. As I mentioned earlier, Will does nothing, and it's a shame that Noah Schnapp was pushed to the side, as in the prior seasons he gave shockingly marvelous performances, but that was likely due to the fact that the story revolved around him, and now that it doesn't, his performance is bad. And that's all it can be when he's just there to say, Mind Flayer is now online. He did have a really well performed scene in episode 3 when he destroys Castle Byers, but I just laughed during that scene due to the poor writing. Yes, it's heartbreaking that he's destroying it, but I just found it so funny that he was so distraught just because his friends got girlfriends. Also, the scene where Mike says, "It's not my problem you don't like girls," has some really bad facial expressions by Schnapp, and I think that's because the scene felt so forced. Is Will gay? Is he an incel? I can't tell. He did also have have clearly believable crying in the finale as well, but hey, I was silently sobbing watching that, so I can't imagine how he must have felt making it. Moving on to Max, she really didn't have much to do in this season when she should have had loads to do in this season, as Billy's the bad guy and the plot pretty much revolves around him. She does have great acting chops scattered throughout, but most of the time she's just there like Will, and when the character has nothing to do, the actor also has nothing to do, which sucks. Jonathan was also just there. In the past two, he had quite a lot to do with the plot, but in this one, he really has nothing to do. In this season, he just felt like he was in Nancy's shadow the whole time. And considering he was doing nothing all season, I genuinely thought he was going to die in the hospital scene, just so they wouldn't have the fear of not knowing what to do with that character. Also, he's a main character, so the death would matter, but he's nobody's favourite, so it would have been fine. Transitioning over to the good acting now, Dacre Montgomery, David Harbour, Millie Bobby Brown, Joe Keery, Maya Hawke, and Carrie Elwes, I don't know how you say his name, are some huge highlights. So is Alec Utgoff, but that's mainly because he's just so happy that he makes the viewer happy. Dacre Montgomery kind of had nothing to do in season 2, and his acting was never bad, but he was just bad as a character. But in this season, they gave him a lot to do, which really makes him shine. More on that later. Although they made Hopper a bit of a dick, he's still my favourite character. He may be flawed like any good character, but he's smart, funny, and a badass who is the embodiment of a dad bod. When you have that much to work with, you can really make your performance shine, and that's what David Harbour does. He's stunning. His line delivery and physicality is just excellent, and he's one of those people that was born for a certain role. RDJ for Iron Man, David Harbour for Jim Hopper. Millie Bobby Brown is a phenomenal actress. She's practically the master of facial expressions. She can tell you a whole story with a mouth twitch and a blink of her eye. Not just that, but she's really great at line delivery, and that really shows in this season, as she didn't really say all that much in the past two, and that's why I think this was such a breakout role for her. Luckily, her signature facial expressions return in this season, along with her speaking full sentences in what a British person thinks is a great American accent by a British person. You know how I said I was silently sobbing at the end? Well, the reason why I started crying was because this shot just broke me. This face tells us so much, and I couldn't help but cry. Then once she started reading the letter, I was genuinely flooded in tears. Carrying on, Joe Keery returns as the best babysitter with the best head of hair. He turned into my second favourite character because of season 2, and he still is. In this season, he had some of the best scenes. Whether that be the scene where he is begging for his life and you feel sorry for him, the scene where he goes crazy in the Russian elevator, or his easy ability to make you laugh with him and feel proud for him when he finally wins a fight. His chemistry with Maya Hawke was amazing, and I love the scene where the drugs wear off and they have a proper talk and it's revealed that she's gay. Maya Hawke's delivery throughout the show, but specifically in this scene, is amazing, along with the staging. At first, they are divided by the toilet stool, then when it becomes more personal, Steve slides under it and they are next to each other. Maya Hawke was an excellent addition, and so was Carrie Elwes and Alec Utgoff, but I'll get more on that later. Everyone else was just fine. They did the job. Whether I was supposed to like them, hate them, or feel for them, most of them seem to follow their direction and do pretty well. Maya Hawke flew into action this season as the wonderful Robin, the smart, funny character who everyone grew to love due to the depth to her character. The Duffers and Maya were able to give this character some huge development throughout, and we don't even know her surname. She's quite possibly my third or fourth favourite character. Carrie Elwes also walked through the door as the corrupt politician Mayor Klein. He was really quite splendid. You hated him, but you also couldn't help but feel sorry for him due to his facial expressions. He had some really great line delivery throughout, and he could have just been a plot device, but they made him more than that. Alec Utgoff as Alexei was surprisingly fun. I genuinely did not see his death coming. He was just some random Russian dude who wanted some cherry slurpees and to hang out with his American pal Murray. Every time he was on screen, he just lit up the mood, and I felt weirdly sad when he died. The person who killed him was none other than this annoying Arnold Schwarzenegger ripoff. This guy's line delivery was always just plain bad, and he didn't need to be there half the time. He just slowed down every scene he was in and was indirectly responsible for Hopper's death. You know who else was indirectly responsible for Hopper's death? This bitch. Seriously though, why did the Duffers write in an overly long musical number which was annoying as hell and takes away from the action? As much as I don't want a season 4, I can't wait to watch her get eaten alive by a Demogorgon in that one. In Season 2, Billy felt like he only existed to replace Steve as the generic 80s popular guy, and that was his whole character. The guy who all the girls swoon over because he's buff even though he's the obligatory douchebag. However, in Season 3, making him the main villain by being controlled by the Mind Flayer was a great choice. That's because this makes him a key character, but also because we actually care about him. Not because of that shoehorned in beach vision, which only tells me, hey yo, he's gonna die, so you gotta feel sorry for him. But because of this scene where he's pleading to Max, crying that he is sorry and that this isn't him. Dacre Montgomery's performance in that scene, and in general throughout the season, is incredible and heartbreaking. This shows us that he is a nice guy and therefore makes us feel sorry for him and like him. Furthermore, Billy in this whole season is possessed by the Mind Flayer to do some pretty horrible stuff for it. Because of this, Montgomery's performance is really good, and that's due to the depth behind it. He's not just playing Billy, but a monster from an alternate universe. Dacre Montgomery said that for this season he researched cases of bipolar and multiple personality disorder in order to prepare for this role, and that was a great idea because he really gets the message across that they are two different people. In addition, I didn't really feel much empathy or sorrow when Billy sacrificed himself first time around because it was predictable as hell. Just wanted to put that out there because I hate that beach scene so much. Furthermore, Dacre Montgomery's American accent is really spectacular. Moving on to the Flayed, in general, it was terrifying. Random, innocent people kidnapped and possessed into doing unthinkable acts. The woman who played the lifeguard, Francesca Real, did a brilliant job with her line delivery and facial expressions after becoming Flayed, and I hope to see her in a horror film soon. Also, don't tell me that when Mrs. Driscoll started wailing in that hospital bed, you weren't scared for your life. That makeup, along with the sound design, is fantastic. Furthermore, turning the dickheads at Hawkins Post into the Flayed was great, as it created one of the coolest, most intense action scenes in the show, and seeing them just burst into flesh to turn into the monster was quite disturbing. His CGI was exceptionally good. Stranger Things has always had really good cinematography, thanks to these guys, especially in Season 2 and now especially in Season 3. Great panning shots, slanted, shaky or quick moving shots to build suspense, reflection shots, etc. Also, although I can't really pinpoint where they are in the season, I remember that there are some really smart, cool and smooth transitions that I remember being really impressed by. The good cinematography is most notable in This is one of the coolest episodes in the history of television. I mean, it's practically a film. It looks better than most films. It feels better than most films. It's written better than most films. There's so many things about this episode that are just so great. Firstly, the aesthetic. This episode is so visually pleasing. This shot is absolutely beautiful, and this shot is great, showing how big a threat Billy is. He's in the sky, just like the Mind Flayer was in Season 2. Secondly, there are so many badass and feel-good moments, as well as moments that will make you cry. Thirdly, it's a great finale, and my only gripe with it is that it's not the true finale. The score is wonderful, we all know that. Composers Carl Dixon and Michael Stein are great at making music, whether it adds to the tension, the tenderness, or it's just nice 80s synth background music. Also, it always got a laugh out of me every time I saw ominous synth music playing about 10 times every episode. In addition, there are a lot of licensed 80s songs that just mix into the scenes so effortlessly. The writing, along with the acting, is the thing that makes this season a mixed bag. I feel that the writing and acting of Stranger Things 3 is the perfect middle ground. Not necessarily bad, but not necessarily amazing either. It has its ups and upside downs. For example, as I have previously mentioned, the character writing for quite a few characters is bad, but the story writing is brilliant, for the most part. You have the amazing Scoot Troop team, and the Hopper and Joyce team doing their own stuff, but then you have the kids and Nancy and Jonathan doing their own thing, and as cool as it is, it's the worst part of this season in terms of main plot. In addition, the dialogue always felt real and believable, except for maybe 2 lines, which were both delivered by Finn Wolfhard and Noah Schnapp. Okay, this was a lot longer than I would have thought, and I didn't even touch up on the costume design yet, but you can see that, you know it's great, always has been, but in this season, it's exceptionally fantastic due to Ellen Hopper's new looks. Also, Lucas has some really cool clothes in this season. I also didn't talk about the editing, mainly because it's perfectly fine. So yeah, that's why Stranger Things 3 was a mixed bag. It was an amazing pick and mix pot, but you had a few stale ones at the top that you had to fight through. Because after that, it was like a never-ending pot of Haribo Straws. Has anyone actually got these vague European sweet references? Also, I just want to put it out there that I know there will be a season 4 and I know Hopper will come back, but I don't want either of those things. Hopper's death genuinely made me cry harder than Black Widow's death in Endgame, which, by the way, this season feels very similar to Infinity War from a structural standpoint. If they bring him back, which they will, I'll be so pissed because it will ruin all the emotional investment that I had. Who am I kidding? They'll bring him back. I'll be angry for a second and then happy he's back. But still, you get what I mean. To conclude, Stranger Things 3 was worth the wait as it was an awesome season of television, but it had a few sour patches here and there. In season 1, Steve was just your generic 80s popular kid until the Duffers realised they liked having him on set, so they redeemed him by the end and made him not only a key player in season 2, but the best player against the Mind Flayer. That's such a sick rhyme.